Welcome back to Lead Our World Lead now. U.S. allies are reacting to what we're told is President Trump's pending decision to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord. The United Nations tweeted a quote from its Secretary General, quote, "Climate change is undeniable. Climate change is unstoppable. Climate solutions provide opportunities that are unmatchable," unquote. The White House has not officially announced anything, and this afternoon the president said he will make his decision very soon. For more, let's talk with Senator Ed Markey. He's a Democrat in Massachusetts. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. The president tweeted he has not made his final decision. What would you tell him if he consulted you and asked you, why should we stay in this accord?
Well, Mr. President, I would say to him, if you pull out, it will be an economic, an environmental, a national security, and a moral disaster for the United States. You have a chance by staying in this agreement to back out imported oil from the Middle East. We right now send young men and women over to the Middle East to protect the oil which comes in from Saudi Arabia. If we increase our efficiency, our renewables, our all-electric vehicles, we back that oil out. It's a national security imperative. The Pope told you, Mr. President, that it's a moral imperative. But the Pope was also a high school chemistry teacher, and he said the science is clear that the planet is warming, the science is clear that human beings are the principal cause, and that there is a moral responsibility for the principal polluter over the last 150 years to be the laggard, to be the leader and not the laggard. So, Mr. President, please listen to the Pope, listen to the scientists, listen to your national security advisor. Please stay in the agreement.
Let me have you address some of the criticisms that your Republican colleagues who are opponents of the climate accord argue. Some say that staying in the pact will make it easier for environmental groups to sue U.S. energy companies. That will hurt American companies and hurt jobs right here in the U.S. How would you respond to that?
Well, I would say that right now there are 70,000 coal miners left in the United States of America. In Massachusetts, we now have 100,000 people working in the clean energy sector. We're 2% of America's population. Massachusetts has 100,000 clean energy workers. There are only 70,000 coal miners left. The president made a pledge that he cannot keep to coal miners. The consequence could be that he pulls us out of an international agreement that would ruin the credibility of our country while handcuffing us, not just in Massachusetts, but across the whole country, in creating hundreds of thousands, millions of new jobs in an economic sector that otherwise we would be ceding to the Chinese, to the Germans, to the Indians, and others. The threat to our country are the windmills pointed at us, coming from China. Like the missiles in Cuba in 1962, the threat to us today are that these renewable energy technologies are pointed at our economy. We'll be importing rather than exporting these technologies for a generation if he pulls out of this accord.
Let me just quickly ask you about China. Another argument is that the agreement set tough standards for the U.S., but China gets off easy.
Well, China has already said that their goal is going to be to produce as much renewable electricity in 2030 as all electricity which is generated in the United States today. That's a big change which is taking place. They're doing it not only for their own economic benefit, but they're doing it because they have to respond to the pollution in their cities. There's no question that China would love it if we pulled out so that they could capture the electric vehicle market. They could capture the wind and solar market. They could capture all of these new technologies and wind up with made in China on all of this equipment that will be sold around the world for the entirety of the 21st century.
Senator Markey, stay right there. We have lots more to talk about, including